Today's a better day to hold this press conference. We've seen a lot of gentlemen, welcome to the PBP Weekly Press Conference. We are holding it today, Tuesday, because we had some other important things yesterday. But this will not be the usual time or date. We will go back to Monday as from next week. We have here with us our General Secretary. He will be reading two statements, after which we will be taking questions. Yes?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. The first statement reads as follows. The People's Progressive Party is convinced that the recent hosting of what was purported to be a church service by City Mayor Hamilton Green and his followers is not a mere coincidence, but a calculated prelude to the call for protest action by David Granger of the APNU. Mr. Green is an executive member of the People's National Congress, which is the leading force in the Partnership for National Unity, hence making it extremely convenient for him to facilitate such an action in keeping with the party's master plan. The fact that the church service, quote unquote, came after Mr. Granger's indication of his party's intent for protest action is further indicative of their deliberate attempt to rile up public dissent in a planned manner. Our party believes that the quote-unquote church service and Mr. Granger's call are intended to be used as support gathering mechanisms to instill fear and instability under the guise of calling for local government elections, as the Granger ultimatum reflected. Guyanese must be reminded that Granger is yet to clarify which election he wishes. This intention is once again aimed at hurting Guyana and Guyanese through protest actions and comes on the heels of a proposed no-confidence motion against the government, and the so-called church service must be seen in this context. The lawlessness and wanton disrespect that ensued during that supposed attempt to quote-unquote worship brought to the fore the well-established characteristic of the PNC through the protests engineered by that very party. Its negative impact to people and property is well documented, and all Guyanese must remain vigilant and guard against such disruptive activities. The PBP takes this opportunity to commend the head of the City Constabulary and his team for the action taken to avoid further chaos during the so-called church service. That said, the PBP is not oblivious to the blatant double standards demonstrated by the mayor. As the first citizen and someone who bellows continuously for a quote-unquote moral and spiritual revival, one would have expected him not to preside over the mismanagement of City Hall, the breaking of laws, and discriminating against a fellow human being, as in the case of acting town clerk Carol Suba. The tactics of intimidation he initiated, including the use of a coffin as part of a mock funeral, to instill fear into Ms. Suba, evokes haunting memories of similar actions targeted against former President Mrs. Janet Jagan. While despicable, such actions in the past and present are not surprising, especially given the many senior members of the PNC who were present at the quote-unquote church service at City Hall. What is even more interesting is that part of the roof of the wharf at the Starbuck Market collapsed the same day the supposed bastion of morality and spirituality was presiding over the church service at City Hall. The wanton mismanagement at the City Hall, which led to the collapse of the roof of the wharf of this iconic market, can only be described as repugnant. And the unearthing by Ms. Suber of untold wrongdoings at City Hall would have been the premise for the constant attacks she, as a woman, is subjected to by the mayor, his deputy, and their clique. Thank you. The next statement reads as follows. The People's Progressive Party once again wishes to remind GCOM that it is the responsibility of GCOM Secretariat to not only produce a list of electors that has the highest degree of accuracy, but also to ensure that every eligible elector is on that list. The PVP also wishes to assure electors that the party will, as it has done always, it will continue to wage an unrelenting struggle to ensure that there exists the open and free will of the electorate and to guard against that right. In this regard, the party has already written GCOM concerning potential and actual occurrences that were observed in the conduct of the 2011 national and regional elections. Most of these issues were raised and documented by GCOM itself in a post-2011 review held by GCOM of those elections. That review was held in January 2012 at the Grand Coastal Hotel. Among the issues raised were: 1. Presiding officers were not stamping the ballots as required when a person came to vote. 2. Presiding officers were not honoring the certificate of employment that were tendered by polling agents of the parties, and disregard the PPP. Presiding officers were not allowing the accredited, duly appointed candidate to relieve polling agents so that the polling agents can go cast their vote. 4. Presiding officers were not allowing polling agents to seal the ballot boxes. 5. GCOM information officers were deliberately misinforming electors regarding the presence of the elector's name on the list. 6. The accredited counting agents were not being permitted to observe the counting of the votes. And 7. Some 24 other issues within the purview of GCOM which compromised the integrity of the elections was raised. As we observed earlier in this statement, these matters were raised and documented by GCOM itself during a GCOM review of the 2011 elections. Suffice it to say that these matters were experienced by the PVP in those elections and for which protest letters were dispatched to GCOM. The PVP remains ever vigilant to ensure the sanctity of any elections held in our country. Thank you.
Thanks, GS. We'll now open the floor for questioning. Who will be the first?
Under my reserve. So you're blaming City Hall for the deterioration of the ferry stelling. Are you in a position to say how much money the City Council actually collected from the ferry stelling, which, for all practical purposes, in the past decades has been under control of the Transport and Highways Department?
Well, I'm not so sure whether it's the City Hall that has to collect revenues from a stelling that is not functioning as a stelling, but rather as a point of departure for boats traversing from one side of the river to the other. It seemed to me that collection of revenues were more from the market than from the wharves. It is, however, in my own view, the council's responsibility when one area of revenue is lost by virtue of its delinquent attitude, that it must seek other sources of revenue to cater for that lost source, so that there shouldn't be any deficit in their budgetary arrangements.
Next.
Mr. Lee, Dennis Gordon, sir, could you say why now the PPP appears to be pressing for the recommendations and observations post-2011 development?
Well, everything has to do with timing. You don't want to raise issues that are out of context, so to speak, and are not the flavor of the day, so to speak. Elections is in the air. Elections is the flavor of the day. And if we're to go forum shopping, obviously the elections forum is the place to go shopping right now. So now it's timely for us to bring to the public's attention matters of this type, so as to alert public opinion and media operatives about these events which took place vis-a-vis the 2011 elections, so that they can do the appropriate research and keep them on the front burner in order to avoid a repetition of such occurrences.
Should the party have been pressing GCOM to deal with this longer in advance to ensure that all systems are in place for what you desire, that is a transparent, free and fair poll?
Well, you know, you go back to the situation of damn you do, damn you don't. If you press for these things, or I should say when you press for these things, you are seen as though you are taking on the responsibility of GCOM to do GCOM's job. And you're being too intrusive in GCOM's operations. If you don't, then you are perceived as being negligent insofar as your responsibilities are concerned. So one has to assume that GCOM itself, having organized that review at the Grand Coastal in January 2012, must have taken note and having done some self-appraisal, and I would assume some self-critical analysis of its performance, would have taken steps to correct those deficiencies rather than waiting on the political parties to press them to do so, for want of embarrassment to GCOM itself.
Have you been able to ascertain whether they have in fact done so?
Well, we have written to them, as I said in the statement, reminding them of that review. I would expect that they would be courteous enough to respond, to give us an indication as to the actions taken to correct those deficiencies since then.
All right, we got Gordon.
Gordon Mosley, News Source. Mr. Rohi, sir, could you say whether or not your party is prepared and ready for the flavor of the day, the national elections that you see is in the air?
I read in today's paper where Ms. Portia Simpson, the leader of the PNP in Jamaica, asked her supporters whether they're ready for local government and general elections. And the Chukuzelas were loud in the air. Such instruments aren't popular here in Guyana unless we have cricket. But I would assume that if such a question was to be put to our supporters, if they were to be amassed at one given location as the PNCP supporters were, the answer would be of a similar nature.
But is the party ready? That's the supporters. Is the party ready for national elections?
As the General Secretary of the People's Progressive Party, I say yes. There's no doubt in my mind that the party machinery, as well as the activists, leadership, and the party in all its manifestations are indeed ready. We have always been ready for election, but I've always made the point that the PPP is not an electioneering party. We are always out there on the ground, working, whether at the ministerial level or at the political level. The government does its business, we do our business. Sometimes there's a interconnection and an interaction between the two, depending on the activity.
Does the party have a preference, local government against national? Which one does the party prefer? Come first.
We are ready for any eventuality, my friend. Whatever decision the leadership of the party takes in respect of one or the other, we are ready. The question is not so much whether we are ready, the question is whether GCOM is ready. Because it seems to us that GCOM appears to be more ready for general and regional than local government elections. There's much more work to be done in respect to local government elections at the GCOM level.
So,
Yeah, Adam?
yeah,
And then,
sir, I want to go back to City Hall. There are 8 PPP members on the council,
Yeah.
but the way sometimes we hear conversation, it's as if the councillors have no brain and nobody else. What is the role of those 8 PPP councillors on the council?
Well, I would say the role of those councillors are to expose any shortcomings they see as requiring exposure within the halls of the city council at whatever level. Their duty is also to support any positive action that will advance the well-being of the citizenry in Georgetown, and to participate in whatever committees, from a constructive point of view, in the work of the city council.
Now, there were that some of them actually voted against Carol Suba being town clerk. Would you have considered that support for the council, or was it some measure to cause division among the council?
I can't answer for that. I am yet to, hear from those people why they did so. But thank you for making me smile for the morning.
all right, next. Ms.
Reminds me
Rockcliffe.
of Break a Day biscuits.
Okay,
Yeah.
good morning. Abina Rockcliffe, Country News. Mr. Roy, you just said that the PDP is ready and it's just waiting for the president, or sorry, the leaders of the party to call action.
No.
No?
I never said the PVP is ready and is waiting for the leadership of the party. I never said that.
You're waiting whatever decision. the
No.
leadership of the party
No.
makes.
If you're quoting me, ma'am, please
Okay,
quote me
sir.
correctly, because, if I say something wrong, you quote me, I say something wrong.
I understand. sir.
I would like you to quote me
So,
correctly.
okay, I will try to refrain from quoting you in this case because I can't. The PVP is ready, you said that.
Yes.
But would you know why is the president waiting so long to call elections, knowing his party is ready and all other machineries are just waiting for this? And secondly, the president on Saturday informed Granger that he will be meeting with him upon his return from New York. Was there any consultation with the PPP on this move, and does the party know what the president is willing to propose?
Well, on the first two aspects, I think it would be rather presumptuous of me to answer for the president. The president is the president. When he speaks on such matters as the president and the head of state. When I speak as the general secretary of the PPP, and we usually don't speak at cross purposes. If you want to know whether the party was consulted, the president, as you know, is a member of the executive committee of our party. And, of course, there will be general consultations at the executive level on such matters.
There
So-
would be, but has there been any?
There would be. Implicit in that statement is there has been.
And would you guys know whatever the president's proposal, what he's willing to propose at this upcoming meeting with Granger?
Even if I knew, I would not be presumptuous enough to disclose that.
Okay, did the PPP had any stance in this? Did you propose anything to the president? Well, this is what we
Even if
want.
we did, I would not be presumptuous enough to tell tales out of school.
Okay,
right, let's move on
Yes,
next.
sir, I want to talk to you as Minister of Home Affairs.
All right, let us deal with all this statement first. You got to, yes.
Minister,
Stacey Carmichael, NCA News. Mr. Roy, AFC leader Kemal Rambutan, at his last press conference, he said the party will be willing to assist the government in getting back the 4.5 million that we lost to Syringer Engineering. He said he's willing to support the government in any efforts to get back that money. How do you feel about that pronouncement by Mr. Rambutan?
I think Mr. Rambutan is bigging himself up more than he thinks he really is. You know, he is setting himself up as a broker between the Indian government and the government of Guyana. The government of Guyana has bilateral relations with the government of India, and the government of Guyana, through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, has extremely good relations with the Indian High Commission here in Guyana. So for Mr. Rambutan to seek to insert himself as an interlocutor between the Indian government and the government of Guyana on a matter that is of a bilateral nature, I think it is being rather intrusive and presumptuous on his part and bigging himself up too much out of proportion. So he should stay where he is and, you know, keep to his legal profession.
isn't Syringer, sir, a private company? And why would the government want to have bilateral talks with the Indian government over the actions of a private company from India?
Well, I think there's some role for Exim Bank in this whole thing, and the India Exim Bank has some connections with the Indian government. So it's a little more complicated than it appears on the surface, rather than just a matter for Syringer.
And sir,
And if it, even in fact, if it was a private company, then why did Rambutan, as he claimed, had to go to the Lok Sabha for support on this matter?
Sir, over the weekend, some serious allegations surfaced against the Speaker of the National Assembly, and the Alliance for Change and the Speaker have both indicated that they believe those allegations are political in nature. And in fact, the Alliance for Change has laid blame at the feet of the PPP, saying they believe the PPP has some role in the allegations being put forward by that young man. An official response from the party to that statement by the Alliance for Change.
Well, let me put it this way. It's something is wrong in our republic. And I hope that Mr. Adam Harris in his Sunday columns will take this up, because he's a rather prolific commentator on social commentary.
Didn't know that.
In my opinion. Now, what seems to be wrong is that whenever an opposition supporter or politician or actor seems to be embroiled in a matter of public interest, he's usually spared the rod by sections of the media. And usually efforts are made to taint whatever matter it might be as politically inspired. We have a number of issues which are on public record, where opposition politicians, actors, supporters, etc., are being involved in a number of matters. The removal of evidence from a crime scene, association in respect to the missing guns, conflict of interest matters with respect to bids for specialty hospitals and hydroelectric projects, and a whole host of matters. When, however, someone who's associated with the government appears to be, and I use the words guardedly, appears to be involved in a matter of public interest, sections of the media go after that individual as though they're going for his blood or her blood. And they don't give up at all whatsoever. We have people evading taxes. And now it is being spun as though that is politically inspired as well. So I think something, as I said before to Coach Shakespeare, is really rotten in the Kingdom of Denmark. Read Republic of Guyana. I think the media, if it is to be objective in its reporting and reportage, need to take cognizance of these events and really ask readers to take note of it and to give some sense of where we're really heading when it comes to matters of this type.
So your answer to the question would be, did the PDP play any role at all with regards to these accusations?
PPP, as far as I'm aware, under my watch as the General Secretary at this point in time, the answer is no.
And sir, this same young man, just before we move on, this same young man in an interview just before he came out with these allegations, he said that he was brought to Guyana by the government of Guyana. He was put up as a guest at the Pegasus Hotel, and that stay was paid for by the government of Guyana. And he also claims in that interview that he was offered a high-level government job in gender affairs and gender equality. Are you concerned about those statements from this same young man?
He uses the word government once he doesn't say PPP.
The PPP is in government.
No. There's no paramountcy of the party here. There is no paramountcy of the party. Government is government, PPP is PPP. I want to draw this clear line of distinction and to end this confusion or convenient mixture of things. So if this young man is allegedly claiming that government did this and government did that, I'm sorry, you're at the wrong address asking those questions. Those questions should be asked to someone in the government.
But would you be concerned as the General Secretary of a party that is in government that this young man is making serious charges, that he was brought together and he has put up in front of his jobs?
I cannot be concerned about things that cannot be corroborated. These are mere allegations.
So then you would not be concerned either about his allegations against the Speaker?
That is a matter for the Speaker. I think the Speaker has said he would like to have the matter investigated, and he has even said that he is optimistic that he will be cleared. Last night I was watching television on one TV station, which I wouldn't name right now, and comes back to the same thing that I mentioned earlier. One TV station mentioned that the Speaker cleared the air on the matter. Very interesting piece of soundbite. Whereas, had it been someone in the government, he would have said the embattled individual. So they already cleared him. He's not embattled. But if it was a government party, he would have been embattled. I pay very close attention to your style of work and your language.
Yeah, I know you're gonna get down to it eventually.
All right,
Clearly
next.
here means speaking
We
up.
got Dennis.
Mr. Rui, in the PP's assessment of the way forward,
In the what?
in the PPP's assessment, which I believe the party may have conducted, on the way forward for the confidence motion, could you say what are the steps involved and where will the process end?
Rightly speaking, I think that that's a question that should be directed to the opposition, who seem to be divided on the matter. There seem to be very deep divisions, and I don't see iNews or anybody writing about these things. some of these media houses are providing media fodder to the opposition. But what I'd like to say is this, that it appears as though the opposition is divided because one seems to be going to the east and another one seems to be going to the west. You know, I think it was, what's his name, the famous Jamaica singer who spoke about war in the east and war in the west.
Mr. Roy.
So,
Mr.
Bob
Roy.
Marley.
Bob Marley. So I'm waiting with bated breath to see how they will end up. I would have remembered anyway. Don't mind she prompting me. She's not helping me. We do have these senior moments from time to time. But what I'm saying is that if, as Mr. Ramjatan claimed, that 90 million pieces of silver was shared out among 3 MPs. And then when he was pushed against the wall, he made reference to whether it was AFC MPs. He said no, it was APNU MPs. But he didn't name them. Now, I would have thought that since he and Mr. Granger are such close buddies, he would have called Mr. Granger, walked across the brick dam, or Hatfield Street, sorry, and told Mr. Granger, look, I have this information on 3 of your MPs. But you know, when you look at ZTV and you see some of the Indian soaps, as opposed to the afternoon soaps of The Young and the Restless and The Bold and the Brave. You know, it's so interesting to see what is unfolding here. I would have gone and told Mr. Granger who were the 3 persons. But here again, you have public disclosure in the media. Rather than these gentlemen talking, they all talk to each other through the media. So I'm wondering how close is this alliance really? These 2 parties seem to me to be on a collision course. And you know the PBP, as Mr. Mosley just asked, or I think it was Mr. Cabral, is in a very advantageous position. Adam, as a old politician, would know, closet politician would know, that we just sit back and watch these 2 individuals sort their business out. And then we will walk away with the prize.
Sir, I wanted to
By the way, on another note, I heard Mr. Granger talk about me being weak
Yeah,
and about me being distracted. Well, I'd like to join in the public communication exercise too, since everybody is in it. I think that's the term they use. Instead of writing private letters to each other, they are communicating with each other in the public.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to join in as part of that too, to say that let Mr. Granger know that I don't recall, I have to depend on Gordon to have really sing of Too Weak to Fight.
Clarence Carter.
Clarence Carter, Too Weak to Fight, beautiful song. But I'd like to also remind you of the famous Frank Sinatra, My Way. And the final curtain has not been pulled as yet. That's to say that if Mr. Granger thinks that I'm weak, you know, he has launched what is called a countrywide protest actions to hasten the government's signature on a number of bills. Well, I would like Mr. Granger. I'm not threatening anybody or warning. I'm just saying, you know, that he announced that these things will be peaceful and so forth. And I hope that they will all be peaceful, because if they're not peaceful, and should there be any divergence from the peacefulness of any of those protest activities organized by Mr. Granger, resulting in upsetting the peace and good order of our country, then he will see who's really too weak to fight.
And you're saying that in your capacity as General Secretary of the PPP?
No. As the Minister of Home Affairs,
Oh.
I've now crossed the Rubicon.
So you wanted two things crossed?
No. I just crossed the Rubicon.
Okay.
And then, in respect now, as the General Secretary of the PPP, when he spoke about being distracted, I don't think it's a question of distraction. It's not distraction. It's preparation, really, for the fight that is looming on the horizon on the elections front. Preparations to ensure that the party is up and ready to contest successfully any of the two elections that are in the air.
Dennis, then Ms. Ratcliffe.
Mr. Rooney, in the party's assessment of the way forward,
And the parties,
assessment
Uh-huh.
of the way forward under the confidence motion,
mhm,
has consideration been given to the possibility of a confidence motion by the party or the government, and whether there are other courses of action such as legal options being open to deal with the outcome of the votes.
well, you know, I think it was about a week or two ago, I heard Dr. Luncheon at a press conference announce that the PPP MPs in Parliament, government ministers, etc., will be giving a fitting rebuff to the no confidence motion when it is debated. Well, I take from that a cue that when that motion is debated, there'll be a full-scale debate, and government ministers, backbenchers, MPs will all have the opportunity to defend the track record of the government against any no confidence motion. Obviously, those on the opposition benches will be speaking in favor of the no confidence motion, you know, declaring all that the government hasn't done and what the government should have done and where it failed and so forth. And we, on the other hand, will be defending, you know, fully and confidently the measures taken by the government in light of the no confidence motion. So that will be our response. It will be parliamentary feral blasting.
Or will you be going, is there an option for court action after the motion would have been passed?
I am not aware of any such discussions in the party on such a matter.
Ms. Ratcliffe.
Yes. Mr. Roy, you had said a few weeks ago at a press conference that the party has skeletons on Nagamutu, Moses Nagamutu, and they'll be bringing out those skeletons soon. The AFC has since acknowledged...
We will be bringing out those skeletons soon, I said that?
Yes, you said it will work to your advantage and you will use those skeletons.
No, I don't recall saying those words as you're putting them there.
Mr. Roy.
I don't recall saying those words I don't recall saying exactly those words you're putting out there. So
Not those
I'll
exact
assume
words, but
the
to
role
that
of
effect.
I will assume the role of oracle.
Did I do that?
Did I say that instead of did I do that?
Sarah, you said the words. It summed up to that. Either way, the AFC has since said that it's prepared for the mudslinging, etc. But the party, the PPP,
Mhm.
has skeletons and other people in the AFC.
Why don't we just restrict that for the time being to what I said in respect to that individual, whose name gives my tongue a bad taste whenever it is uttered?
All right.
Okay, no, I have one more question, please. Is the PPP shocked by the revelations of Kaiju News with regards to the plot, or
With regard to what?
to the plot to bring the newspaper down, or was it privy to such info?
The PPP?
Yes, your party that you're sitting at the helm.
If we what?
Were you shocked by the revelations, the emails and everything in paper, or were you privy to such information?
It takes more than that to shock the PPP.
Oh, so you knew about it?
No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
I didn't say that. I said it takes more than that. I'm using the word shocked.
So it didn't come as a shock to you?
No, those things don't shock us. Take bigger things than that to shock us.
So it's something that would have been expected?
The way things go in Guyana, I have to tell you, don't be surprised by the unexpected.
But was it expected?
You heard what I said. Don't be surprised by the unexpected.
All right, we take final two
And
questions.
as the French would say,
Follow-up.
as the French would say, for those of you who parlez un poco de français, c'est la vie.
All right, Adam, just 1 minute. This young lady.
Kiana Woodward, Kitron News. Just to follow up to my colleague's question. In that email, the one by the Commissioner General that was in the newspaper, he spoke about sending confidential information about the corporation taxes paid by several media houses to former President Barjatio. Does it concern the PPP at all that he's actually breaching a principle that he often supports, which is taxpayers' information is treated with the strictest confidence?
You know, having worked with foreign affairs and the police for a number of years now, I've developed a rather suspicious mind. And when I saw that disclosure or that front page story, my mind went back immediately to an episode in the Trinidad and Tobago between the opposition leader and some other politicians about the creditworthiness of an email. So I don't know at this point in time how credible that email is. There's so many concoctions and fabrications floating around our country, as they say in this silly season, such as the $30 million for MP's head. I don't know. I really can't answer that question, my dear.
But sir, if I may follow up as well, given the $30 million allegation, the PPP and the Office of the President was quick to send a response to that. There's yet to be a response in relation to that, either from the Commissioner General or from the PPP or any of its other arms.
Well, you see, the difference between those two was that in the case of the $30 million issue, there was a direct allegation against the party and the government, you know, about this matter. In the case of the Kaiju News expose, quote unquote, it had nothing to do with the PPP, so we didn't have to respond to that
But
as a party.
Okay, wait,
Yes,
just
That's a
last
matter for the
question.
government.
Continue, please. Mr. Roy,
Mm.
you referred to
Rohi.
the episode Rohi.
I noticed some people say Royi. It's Rohi.
CJR, Mr. General Secretary.
No, I like the middle one even better. I like the
okay,
CJR.
Okay, sir,
It sounds more
you-
intimate.
Oh. So you referred just now to the incident in Trinidad, where the I'm trying
You
to
forget the
focus here.
question.
Don't let
No.
them throw you off. Don't let
Yeah.
them throw you off.
You
Maintain your
referred to the
balance.
incident in Trinidad where these emails were false. But
Uh-huh.
in that very incident, the
Mhm.
government had ordered from Gmail and the Hotmail to have
And Google.
and Google the
Mhm.
original stuff
Mhm.
presented. Would the PPP be doing anything like this? Do you want the clarity on this matter that you will go to this length?
I think the best person to put that question to Dr. Lunchan.
No, but he's not the General Secretary of the People's Progressive Party.
I know, but the issue is a government issue involving a government agency called the Guyana Revenue
I guess,
Authority.
yeah, okay.
All right, last final question, Adam.
I do want to ask the minister, but something happened last night. No,
About what?
Something happened last night at
Oh.
Common John. Arresting of minors.
Mhm.
The police arrested a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old just out of school, well, just from school,
Mhm.
and detained them at Coke and Johnson.
What time of the day was that?
They were picked up at about 5:30 yesterday afternoon, and up to about 10 o'clock last night, they were in the lockup cell. And we
Mhm.
couldn't get the command and all of that. No,
Were they in uniform?
in school clothes, I want to believe, so they go to
No,
Grimsall Primary
no,
School.
were they in uniform? Can you say that?
No, I didn't see them. I didn't see them.
Oh, but it wasn't told to you.
No, sir, but they were 10 and 13. We know that much. The mother went to the thing.
Okay.
Now, what are the conditions under which the police would arrest minors and detain them?
Okay. We recently established what is called the Cops and Faith Network organization, or some words to that effect, but it's a Cops and Faith Network. The Commissioner of Police spoke about it recently. That is an initiative that was put in place as a result of months of discussion between the Guyana Police Force and the Ministry of Home Affairs. We actually initiated discussion with the police to put that in place. The reason behind that was precisely to address the type of problem that you alluded to, which was rather than to detain persons of such young age, and most of them are usually detained and eventually arrested and charged for wandering, was rather than doing that, was to set up this Cops and Faith Network where when the police would detain these young persons, would contact the pastor, the priest, the mulvi, or the pandit in the community, as well as the parents, and they would come to the police station and mediate and try to resolve the matter without, for want of a better word, criminalizing the young person.